Good morning, everybody. We are back here in Chicago sitting with the one and only legendary special ginger ninja, redhead extraordinaire, beautiful young man, fresh off a Gold Cup victory, Dax McCarty. Thanks for joining us this morning, Bell.
My pleasure. Not so young anymore, though, huh?
Oh, well, that's
3-0. You know how that feels.
That's relative, pal. You're sitting with two old guys here.
That's true. That's true. I might be the youngest guy at this table.
We've been jumping around all afternoon or all week, and Gordo's walking around like he's played a full 90 already.
That doesn't surprise me in the least bit. This guy doesn't have to play the full 90, though, huh?
No, well, he's made a career out of that, hasn't he?
10 minutes, goal. Guaranteed, every time.
He's figured out how to shrink a game into 12 minutes and get away with it.
That's unbelievable.
Well, when you can only play 12 minutes, it has to work.
I'm pretty sure that's the dream, though, you know? Every soccer player, hey, let me come on, 10 minutes, do my job, boom, go grab a beer afterwards.
What's the biggest complaint about soccer? God, it's a long game.
It is. You gotta run too much.
All right, enough about me. Can we get back to Dax?
So speaking of how this is tough, we were interviewing some of these young cats yesterday out at the homegrown stuff, thinking about when we were in those positions, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, had the game in a palm of our hands, we're ready to go, and really had no idea what we were doing, not a clue. These kids were hilarious yesterday. We were thinking about what are those intangibles that some of these mentors took us by the scruff of the neck and led us along, right? So
yeah,
Gordo was mentioning a guy that really kind of mentored him early on in his career in the Los Angeles Galaxy as Chris Albright.
Chris Albright for me, you know, I think as a young player, we all need guys to kind of, you know, help us along, you know, whatever that is. So Chris Albright for me, you know, took me under his wing when I wasn't making a lot of money, bought me some meals, you know, showed me the ropes a little bit, you know, and it's important because you really don't know what you're doing. You get injured, you're confused, and someone like that can really, you know, help you along and help your career out.
And ramen noodles and Easy Mac only go so far.
Well, don't forget peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Can't forget about that.
The staple. For me, a guy actually that you're working under right now, Pablo Mastroeni, early in my career, was one of those guys that was willing to get stuck in on the field, make sure that he demanded everything out of you as soon as you cross the lines, but also would take you out for a beer, make sure that everything was together in terms of how's the home life, how's your relationship being in Denver, being away from your family.
Absolutely.
This is your first couple steps into the professional environment, and this guy was on top of every single thing. You can tell from the passion that he had both on the field and off the field, that really translated. And that passion is kind of one of those intangibles, the leadership that we were thinking of, and you know, wanted to know if at any of the stops on your way, in your path, that there were guys that maybe mentored you, helped you out.
Absolutely. There's two guys for me that stick out. I don't just want to single one of them out because they both, I think, equally were as important in my career and just kind of, you know, taking me under their wing, so to speak. When I first started my career, I was with FC Dallas, and still to this day, I'll say probably the best teammate I've ever had. Rest in peace, Bobby Ryan. I mean, the man was literally a jack of all trades. There wasn't anything that he wasn't good at. Yeah. So not only was he a great player on the field, and every time he stepped on the field, he was a guy that you wanted on your team. Didn't matter if it was training, didn't matter if it was a game, if it was like a fun game like horseshoes or, you know, juggling, whatever you were doing 5v2, you wanted that guy next to you. But then even more so than that, he was just a great guy. One of the funniest guys I'd ever met. I don't know if you guys had the pleasure of being able to hang around him for a little bit, but one of the funniest guys that I'd ever met, but also one of the best leaders that I'd ever learned from. So like you guys were talking about, the guy that would take you under his wing, take you out for a beer if things were going wrong, but also a guy that literally just lightened the mood whenever he walked in. You know, whenever that guy walks into the locker room, you're always thinking to yourself, oh, like he's got some story or he's got some joke he's about to crack right now.
That's so important in the
locker room.
And
it is. That's why, I mean, we were really good, those Dallas teams back in the day, and Bobby Ryan was a huge part of that. And then the other guy, when I got to New York and I kind of went through my career transformation when I was more of like a box-to-box midfielder and I got moved back to play defensive mid, a guy that really took me under his wing was a guy named Teemu Tainio. And I'm sure you guys remember him. He played in the Premier League for a couple years for Tottenham, and he was honestly one of the best players that I had ever played with.
Was he?
And he was such a funny guy. He was the guy that would always take you out after a game for a beer and have a chat with you and just say, hey, man, I thought you played the best game you've ever played for the Red Bulls. Or, hey, you were crap tonight. Like, what's going on? Is everything cool?
Which goes a long way for a young player, you know.
I mean, those two guys, I just look back on my career path and everything that I've learned and everything I try to incorporate into how to be a good teammate and how to be a leader. Those two guys for me are always the two that I look at.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are special stories, obviously, two individuals that, you know, you can recount and almost, you know, speak in such colorful words about, and that was a while ago. You
Absolutely.
know, it has such an important effect on who you've become, probably as a man, as a player, as a person, on and off the field. It's I was laughing as you talked about lightening the mood, and I go back to Pablo again. He had this book of jokes that he got on, right? And I mean, he's so eccentric and so ridiculous half the time. But he would sit on the pod every morning and come in, and we would sit around and literally wait for this joke that he would come in, and he'd try and recite it, and he would work on his delivery every time, and then he'd come in and deliver this joke, and it was, you know, such silly, ridiculous stuff, just the dad jokes. But
the one thing that always sticks out to me about both Bobby and Timu, and now that I think about it, it's so like random and weird that they both had this same mannerism. Honestly, every time they would go shower or got out of the shower, their towel, they'd be like the old men who would wear the towel like way up here, like right under the pecs, you know? Like they wouldn't wear it like normal guys, like around the waist. Their towel would be literally up here. And I would always just look at him and be like, dude, you look so old right now. Like I hope that I'm never that guy that wears his towel after he showers or right underneath his pecs. And they both did it.
And now you're wearing your towel under your armpit.
Yeah. I use the hand towel. You know, it barely fits around my waist.
But it's guys like that kind of mold who we become as old players. And you know, and it's been pretty noticeable, I think, in your recent transfer from New York to Chicago, that guys are saying, you know, I think Dax is the sticky man. You know, we're going to give you the sticky man tag because it's a guy that's the glue.
For sure.
You know, and sometimes, unfortunately, you don't know what you have until it's gone.
Exactly.
You know, and one or two guys in and out of a locker room can really change the whole vibe of the locker room, and you know, and that transfers on what goes out in the field.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think it's something that when you're a young player, you're not really sure what path your career is going to take, right? Like you don't really know if you're going to be. Well, I mean, some guys, like if you look at a Christian Pulisic, you're like, oh, well, he's going to be a superstar, right? Like he's going to be a superstar on the field. Who knows how he's going to be when he gets older as a leader or whatever. But there are certain guys you can say, well, he's going to be a good pro, but he's going to be a utility man, right? Or he's going to be a guy who, you know, bounces around a lot. And there's other guys that say, oh, well, they're going to be one team guys. They're going to be on the same team, and they're going to be great leaders. And there's other guys that just it takes a little while to find your way. And I think I was definitely one of those guys where, you know, I came into the league and I was cocky and I was arrogant and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to play forever. You know, this is never going to end. I'm always going to be, you know, a sought-after guy. And then you get older and your career goes on and you start taking little things from these leaders you guys are talking about, and you start getting perspective on the type of player you want to be. And the type of player that I always wanted to be was a guy that my teammates looked at and said, you know, that's a guy I want to go into battle with on the field. Because at the end of the day, you know, the individual stats, they're great, but I think the thing that as a player that means more to me is just what my teammates will say to me like after I'm done playing, or say about me when I'm done playing.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know the type of player that you really want to be when you're that age. When you're coming into the league, you're still trying to figure out what's up, right?
100%.
And so for you to kind of get pushed and get massaged into a certain direction, you find out what is valuable. And those people, those leaders, those motivators, those intangibles are things that you can take and say, okay, that's who I want to base myself off of. And that's
100%.
When I'm at that point in my career, that's what I want these young kids to remember me as.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So there are also a couple things that we feel like make a locker room light and lighten things up and kind of translate, because not everybody can be that leader, right? Not everybody can be that motivator. So
we're talking about in their own way.
In their own way, yeah. I mean, take pieces and run with it, right? So we thought there's always somebody that's lightening the mood, bringing the banter, talking nonsense, ripping. Doesn't matter who walks through the door, they're ripping you.
Yeah.
Gordo, I thought, brought up a good one from his days in San Jose, which still makes me laugh and brings a smile to my face every time you mention the guy. So Talk about the geese.
Yeah, the geese, Jordan Stewart. Have you run across this guy?
I have met him.
I mean, if you have, you'd remember him because
it's the British humor. It really is.
It's not fair.
No,
it's not fair. It's because
fair.
sometimes they're really not that funny, but they say it, and it just seems more funny.
But
this is a fact of life.
It is.
If you say something in any type of accent, it's going to sound funnier, or girls are going to like it more.
100%.
Doesn't matter who 100%. You are.
It was like Kevin Doyle. He on my team now.
Yeah.
He's stiff, but he's actually kind of funny because he's got an Irish accent.
Of course.
You know, no offense, Doyle. You know you're stiff. Anyway, but the geese, he was just, always had that up-tempo attitude, feeling, always wanted banter, no matter what. He was always willing to banter. And for me, that makes a locker room, because you sometimes you get stuck on a team where there's not that banter, and it really changes things. So a guy like that, for me, he's making my starting 11 of intangibles for sure. Jordan Stewart.
Yeah. You got anybody in that mold?
I do. I have a bunch. I got a bunch of guys like that. But
who's the one guy?
The one guy that sticks out in my mind more than anyone else. And I don't know if you guys played with him, but I played with him in my very brief stint at DC United. And this guy was literally one of the funniest guys I've ever met. But also, you could literally go buy a $5,000 Armani suit, walk into the locker room, and he would find some way to rag on it. Sure. He would find some way to say, "Oh, your pants are too baggy. Yeah. Oh, your tie is not straight. Oh, your shoes are crap." He would just find something about your outfit and just crush it. His name's Kurt Morrisink. And he played in Kansas City.
I've been around him. But.
Played in DC United. I mean, this guy was one of the funniest guys around, and it was kind of funny because we played the same position. And so he was always kind of ribbing me a little bit because we were both center midfielders, and I played a little bit more than him. And so he was always a guy. He was always a guy that was always kind of walking that fine line between giving you crap, but also like doing it in a way where it was like, like really playful and joking.
Yeah.
But he's a guy that just sticks out to me now as one of my favorite teammates, strictly because of the intangibles that he brought. And he was a good player in his day, but I think towards the end he was just more about locker room glue guy.
So who's controlling the vibe in the locker room? Who's got the music on? Who's walking in, busting moves, and bringing people together?
So I got a couple. I mean, back in my New York Red Bull days. This one's like a really obvious answer, but still it's kind of funny because of the person that he is. Jan Gunnar Solly. He was an outside back for us.
He's a DJ too, right?
He's a DJ. Literally a DJ. So his name is DJ Solly. So his name is Jan Gunnar Solly, and everyone in the locker room just called him DJ.
How was he?
He was fantastic.
Amazing.
He brought some tunes.
Were on point?
This was back in my younger single days, when sometimes after the game you'd hit the club and you'd be like, you want that house music, House music was his specialty, so I loved it. Yeah. He brought the noise every time before a game. I was ready to run through a wall just because of the music he was
flowing.
Did he
mix it up, or was he?
Sometimes, but he was right in his wheelhouse of like Swedish house mafia, like Avicii, like those. And I loved it. I think some older guys were like, what is this crap? You know what I mean? But I loved it. And then now.
That got Thierry Henry and Marquez. They were out the locker room straight on a plane to
really
Visa,
excited.
right?
True story, really quick. Never seen Thierry as so mad one time when Solly actually got red carded in a game, and he was suspended for the next game at home. And he pulled up at halftime. He rolled up in like this massive like Red Bull like pickup truck, and he was like spinning on his tables at halftime. That was literally the halftime show. So
I'll bring a locker room together.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget that moment. I mean, we were all kind of like, what is going on right now? We didn't even know. Only in the U.S. could that happen.
We are talking about intangibles in a locker room, and what really builds this team. Now you're in a locker room with these all-stars that are all the best players in their respective positions. So these are big personalities in every team throughout the league. So who's going to play some of these roles tomorrow, Wednesday, going into that? Who's keeping it light for you in the locker room?
Yeah, it's a great locker room. Obviously, a lot of good guys. The guys that I know well, especially a guy that I think he's got a really big personality, and a guy that can keep it really light is Bastian Schweinsteiger.
Yeah.
And you probably like wouldn't expect that out of him. You know,
Yeah.
he's this big time like World Cup winner, one of the best midfielders of our generation, DP.
What does he feed his calf muscles?
I don't know. I've asked him that 10
That's
times and he won't tell
incredible.
me.
Does he have to cut the threads?
a
You guys
on
want to hear?
socks?
You guys want to hear something absolutely hilarious?
Yeah.
He doesn't cut the threads on the socks. He wears them, but the only way the socks will fit over his calves is he's got to put the socks. You know, foam roll.
Yeah.
He puts the sock literally over the foam roll for a full day.
No.
I swear to God.
No, he
I promise
doesn't.
you, he puts a sock over a foam roller for a full day.
Which is this big, by the way.
It's like it has to marinate overnight. It can't just be 10 minutes, right? It's got to marinate overnight on the foam roll for him to be able to get the sock over those calves.
I literally had to shut Garg's jaw yesterday at practice when he was looking at his calves.
It's not just his calves.
It's ridiculous.
I was in awe, man.
It's his quads, it's his hamstrings. I mean, there's muscles popping out of muscles.
I didn't know that about him. That's crazy.
I think I don't know what his parents fed him when he was young.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the recipe.
I'd like some of
Please.
that.
And it's
Text
funny,
me later.
You see something like that with him, and you're like, oh, he's a really serious guy.
Right.
He's German, you know. But he's literally one of the goofiest guys in the locker room.
He seems like it.
Hilarious guy, loves to banter with not just players, but staff too. Like, and you need that.
And I think that
It's
goes
so
a long
important.
way with saying how far the Fire have come. It
sure.
seems like you guys have a good locker room.
We do.
And we talked about you being a sticky guy, and I think he has a lot to do with that because there's nothing more important than your best player and world superstar if they can come in and relate with the guys in the locker room. It goes,
And that's
it goes a long way.
that's what I'll say the most about Bastian that people probably don't realize is that he's not a guy that people are afraid to approach because he's up here,
Right,
you know?
right.
Like, we all know he is up here,
Yeah,
but he doesn't know that.
That's
That's
great.
massive.
And that's huge
Yeah,
for us.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think he's a guy that obviously we're in our home city of Chicago. He's a guy that'll be, you know, cracking jokes and keeping the mood light. But the DJ it's got to be Dom Dwyer for sure.
He is.
Yeah, Dom's always, he's keeping the mood light. He's another guy who you're just, he loves the banter, you know?
Yeah.
It's that British in him,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think. And so he's obviously just gone through a massive change in his life, a big trade. But, you know, I was catching up with him yesterday, and he's still bringing the jokes, and
That's
he's keeping
good.
it light. And his taste in music is decent. I'll give him a decent shout for that.
He always looks like he's ready to step into the club from the field.
Yeah, no,
Do you
well,
ever
very well dressed.
Do you think that he goes into the club with his jersey on?
I don't think he does. Maybe underneath his shirt.
Yeah, he definitely puts
but
a name tag on for sure.
He does spray paint his pants onto his legs. You've never seen a guy with tighter pants. I think he wears Sydney's pants, honestly.
I bet.
Dax, very insightful, very enjoyable. Brought a touch of class to the Gargs Gordo show.
This guy.
You know, we were talking about this. We've been bashing around all of Chicago this past couple days, and we'd like to invite you into the Bash Brothers as an honorary member. So in order to seal the
that.
deal, if you're into it, a little headbutt to close this thing out.
I'm into it. I've always wanted to headbutt someone.
Hey,
and I never
come on,
have.
bring it in here.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's good.
Now I'm ready. I'm ready to
That
go.
felt right.
You got a hard head, man. No wonder you score all those headers.
I appreciate that, Dax.
Gargs and Gordo, we're out of here. Thanks, guys, for joining in.